Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today I want to talk about Cardano because we've seen some crazy things happening with Cardano in the wider market and just kind of how I think it's kind of fitting into the larger crypto picture. And so there's a ton of speculation going on, so I want to address some of the speculation, discuss kind of what maybe some of it could mean, what some of it might not mean, a lot of that type of stuff. But before we go into that, let's go ahead, dive right in, take a look at kind of where we're sitting at in the market. Now, as we can see, Cardano actually down almost 5% on the day. Maybe a bit of a concern, but honestly, not in my opinion, just based on what we've seen recently. Tons of movement coming out of Cardano in the past couple of weeks. It is kind of diverging a little bit from what we're seeing out of Bitcoin, up 3.2%, Solana up 6%, ETH 7%. So, it has pulled back a little bit, but I do think it is important to note if we look at the month, Cardano up 116%. So obviously doing very, very well. We can see, ETH only up 25%, Sol up just shy of 50%, Bitcoin also. So, I mean, it's basically doubled all of like the other majors within the market. And so doing really, really well. So, even seeing this 5% on the day, not too big of a deal. As we can see, looking at the Cardano chart, we could see, we're sitting almost in like a descending trend ever since like the beginning of March. We did kind of break out a little bit above it in early September, and then kind of we're bouncing on it again, consolidating super, super tight. We can see, usually we've been over this several times on the channel, but we'll zoom in here a little bit. Whenever we go and kind of get super, super constricted on the Bollinger Bands, we can almost always expect kind of volatility kind of pushing out one direction or the other. In this case, it was very much to the upside, seeing an absolutely explosive couple of weeks here for Cardano. We have been sitting overall in kind of overbought, but as we can see, like it's kind of overall stayed pretty stable as prices just kind of rocketed. So obviously always a really good thing to see here. If you are interested in trading Cardano or any other type of crypto asset for that matter, feel free to use BTCC. I have partnered with BTCC for the month. They have this super, super awesome kind of like new user bonus. So if you are wanting to get signed up, they are applying a 10% bonus on all first time deposits that are made. So for example, if you were to deposit, let's say 10 grand or 15 grand, something like that, you would get $1,000 to $1,500 respectively based on how much you deposit. Again, for you to do whatever you want with, super, super good deal. Also, you can see that's in addition to the $10,055 of bonuses that you can earn per user. Really, really good deal. They do up to 300 plus crypto futures, 500x leverage, no VPN or KYC necessary. And also something that I found kind of interesting is if you look, they also do tokenized stocks and commodities. So if you're wanting to trade, Coinbase or, I don't know, maybe let's see if they got MicroStrategy in here. They've got MicroStrategy in here as well. So if you're wanting to participate in the MicroStrategy, chaos that's been happening, you can do that. And also something that I think is even funnier is you can also leverage trade these tokenized stocks. So if you're wanting to, leverage trade MicroStrategy, then go on ahead. I mean, you would have made an absolute fortune here over the past couple of weeks. But anyway, so if you are interested, feel free to check out the description, my link below. Like I said, really, really good deal. I think it's definitely worth a look if you are looking for some place to trade, whether leverage trade or just normal spot trade. BTCC is a great place to do that. So anyway, moving on, one thing I wanted to go over today is there's this video here on X talking, it's actually Charles Hoskinson, which is the founder of Cardano. He's talking kind of about some of the like legislative intricacies and some of that going on with kind of what is going to be happening with kind of the incoming presidential transition. Trump has made the claim previously that he wants to kind of turn crypto in the US is like the most crypto like positive crypto forward government that there is in the world. Very similar to kind of how the US was with the internet when that came out. We obviously see how that worked. Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, AOL, all these different things. Like basically every big internet company that exists is a Facebook or is a US company. And I think a lot of that is in large part because of the US government's openness toward kind of embracing the internet at the early outset. And so I think people are seeing a lot of that. And so here Charles Hoskinson is going to be talking a little bit about kind of what that means, what might be in store. And also he's going to give some pretty specific timelines that I think we might want to listen to. So let's go on ahead and kind of listen in.
We're taking a look at some of the activity in the crypto space because I think really Bitcoin grabs all of the attention really following the US election. You take a look at some of the gains though we've had across the landscape, and yeah, Bitcoin's risen around 46 or 47%, but that line in white there is Cardano, which has actually far outpaced it. It's a gain of nearly 100% since the vote back in early November. So the reason for that, of course, we know Doge, for instance, has really risen. That's the Elon Musk link. The reason Cardano perhaps is rising, or one of the factors being attributed to it, is because the founder of the token, Charles Hoskinson, is report speculation in the markets. Perhaps he's having close talks with some US lawmakers. May play a role. We want to speak with him now. Charles Hoskinson, co-founder and CEO of Input Output, and as we said, the founder of the public blockchain platform Cardano. And Charles, we want to get started with these talks. I know you had an Ask Me Anything session the other day saying that you'd had these discussions ongoing. Talk us through exactly what those discussions look like and who are you speaking to in particular?
Well, there's a lot of things going on right now. It's anytime there's a presidential transition, it's a very complex affair. And actually, the Treasury Secretary has yet to be selected, and they're kind of winnowing down. So that sets all crypto policy. So right now, most of the discussions are with the legislative branch. I'm having dinner tomorrow with Senator Scott, and I've talked to numerous senators who are in the banking sector, basically figuring out how the regulation is going to work. And we've had some discussions with the People Transition team about what they want to do with a crypto committee, and if it's going to be a czar or if it's a commission, and what exact powers and how exactly does that work. And it's not exactly clear in how it's set up on the executive side, but on the legislative side, it's very clear what they want us to pass a law. So there were several attempts already in 2023. FIT 21 was the most successful, which passed the House, but it did not enter the Senate. And in the Senate, there was a bill in 2022 called FIA that was by Senator Lummis and Senator Gillibrand. So right now, there's some reconciliation of what does the executive branch want, what does the legislative branch want. What we've been told by the executive branch is Trump has a mandate that he wants America to be the #1 place to found and run a cryptocurrency business. There were also several campaign promises they're trying to connect to. For example, the strategic reserve for Bitcoin concept that also Senator Lummis is a big fan of. And there's a lot of things around asset classification that have to get resolved. The security commodity debate and what power should be reserved for the CFTC and the SEC. So it's still very early days, and we'll know a lot more in 60 to 90 days about how much level of broad industry participation is going to occur at the executive branch side. But we're already in talks with many people on the legislative side, and they're going to move forward as a co-equal branch of government with or without the executive branch to pass a law.
Yeah, Charles, David here, just to maybe pick up on that too. Is there a sense from the senators that you're speaking with that this time around there will be support to get this enshrined into law, not so much, say, an executive order, which we all know, of course, the former might have more lasting power than the latter?
Yeah, the challenge is not will the law get passed. I think there's a very high probability that that's going to occur. The challenge is what is the scope of it? Is it strictly going to live within the auspices of asset classification, or are they going to be more ambitious and talk about custody, taxes, stablecoins, the strategic reserve, the DeFi stuff, the rules for custodial wallets and non-custodial wallets? There's a broad room of things that cryptocurrencies can touch, and the more ambitious you are, the more you can get done. But the problem is the higher the probability it gets jammed up through either some administrative issue or it just doesn't simply pass committee in the lawmaking process. So I think there's a very strong bet that we're going to resolve the is it a security or not a security issue in 2025 and kind of rein in what's been happening over the last 3 years. It's a little bit more milky when we start talking about complicated things like DeFi because less and less of the cryptocurrency companies are directly involved in that. And also Wall Street has very strong opinions on these types of things because in some cases it competes with pre-existing businesses and it's not clear how to regulate these in a decentralized way. So that's why a commission is helpful because you can establish a baseline across the entire industry of where have people run into problems. And also you can have that question of normalizing US regulation with international standards like MiCA in Europe or the ADGM in Abu Dhabi or what the JFSA has done in Japan. And it's very important that you don't develop US regulation in a sandbox because cryptocurrencies are intrinsically global. Many cryptocurrency companies, mine included, have employees in dozens of countries. We obviously have lots of users, and Cardano in particular has over 100 countries. Ethereum and Bitcoin are even more. So you can't just think in a US-oriented approach. You have to ask, well, how will these be interoperable with each other? So only through the executive branch can we get that level of international coordination. And then the lawmakers are here to serve, and they're very cooperative with the Trump administration, with the upcoming House and Senate. So I don't think there's going to be an issue getting a law through. It's just a question of how ambitious does that law need to be.
So you're saying that there's going to be some sort of commission established for this? I mean, you talk about sort of what's happened in the last few years, and I think many people would look to that regulation through enforcement actions, which of course comes down to the leadership perhaps of Gary Gensler at the SEC. There's talks of him being replaced. Who do you think is most likely to replace him? And is it the SEC that ends up regulating the vast enterprise of the crypto landscape?
So first off, it's hard to pick a commission or even talk about a concept of is it a czar, is it a commission, is it a series of recommendations, until the Treasury Secretary has been selected. That's kind of the big thing because there's some deference to that role because they're the primary oversight body of all the agencies that we've had problems with historically. Second is the question of should the Treasury Department decide that or should it be directly decided by the president? And these are some of the discussions I think are ongoing. And if there was a czar, I would advocate a gentleman like Brian Armstrong, for example, to be that person, and then to build a subcommittee structure where subcommittees basically sit under by topic. So you have the stablecoins, the exchanges, DeFi, and these types of things. But again, it's very early days, and so I think it's probably going to get resolved within about 60 to 90 days. As for the question of the SEC, technically Gary Gensler doesn't have to resign, although there's a precedent that when a new president's elected from opposing party, the chairman does resign, or at least offer that resignation for the president to have the ability to pick a replacement. And that's what we saw with Jay Clayton, for example, Gensler's predecessor, and if Gensler follows tradition, he should do that. As for who replaces him, that's a complicated affair, because the most qualified people also potentially have a bit of conflict of interest because they hold crypto and they're in the cryptocurrency market. And there's a lot of other things that are beyond crypto that are going to be considered with the chair. As you know, Gensler's also had some attempts to weaponize the SEC for environmental policy and other things outside of the scope of crypto. So the grievances go far beyond our industry in terms of the conduct there. So ultimately, these are conversations that would have to be held with the incoming Treasury Secretary and Trump's people, and they're far beyond my pay grade. I have no idea where they're going.
far beyond your pay grade. All right, Charles, I hope to speak with you again, because I know also you were saying this next 60 to 90 days is going to be really critical for seeing how everything comes together. But that was Charles Hoskinson there, co-founder and CEO of Import Output, and we'll have plenty more ahead. This is Bloomberg.
All right, so as we can see, a lot to talk about there. Lots of things looking like they're potentially going to happen. I think we could see very clearly in the video just kind of the level and kind of the extent that Charles Hoskinson has kind of been involved with the presidential transition. It sounds like he's been talking with a lot of people, maybe rubbing shoulders with some very, very important and powerful people in terms of policy making, decision making, all that type of stuff within the U.S. And so I think this is kind of part of the reason why we've seen Cardano's price go so nuts lately, is because I think speculation abounds, right? And so, there's a lot of people speculating, well, what if this, what if that, and so I think a lot of Cardano's price movement isn't necessarily like about anything Cardano's actually doing from like a tech or like a ecosystem type of perspective. It's more the fact that Charles Hoskinson's, it sounds like there's rumors he's been meeting with Elon Musk, and he's obviously meeting with a lot of U.S. senators and a lot of people within U.S. government. So I think there's speculation that, potentially if he's involved in helping making some of these decisions, that some of these decisions are going to be, in fact, positive for his project in particular, Cardano, but also just the crypto industry overall, which we know is massively bullish for basically anything in crypto, right? And so I think that's kind of the main takeaway here from the video. Really, really interesting video. Hopefully you found it as interesting as I did. I think this is like really the type of news that I love to see all the time, just with regarding different developments and things that are going on within the crypto industry. So overall, if you did find this information useful and helpful, please do give me a like and subscribe. It really does help me out, especially getting me pushed further into the YouTube algorithm and all that good type of stuff. So if this is something you are interested in, please do give me that like and subscribe. Also, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, feedback, anything, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the video, all that type of stuff. So please do just leave those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of them. So if you have anything that you want me to see, that would be a great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.